let's talk about tile sets. If you don't know what that is, a tile set or tile map is a group of the square blocks or tiles that are used when you're building a video game. I'm going to talk about the three main stuffs you need to know in order to actually build a tile set, from concept to completion. Let's do it. Hey guys, I'm Andrew, and I'm a pixel artist. This is the first tile set I've ever actually designed. It's for a game that my friends and I were working on, but we're here to talk tiles. And the first of the three major stuffs you need is stuff number one, make a plan. The plan has three main components, but the first thing I really think you should start out on is kind of the most boring and also one of the most important, and that is to figure out your screen resolution. Widescreen resolution is 1920 by 1080 pixels. But that is pretty huge compared to most pixel art. For example, Mega Man is only 24 pixels tall. That would leave over 1,000 pixels above his head. So what game developers do instead is they develop a game that can be scaled up to that 1920 by 1080. For example, Owlboy is 640 by 360, which is 1920 by 1080 divided by 3. The Messenger is 480 by 270, and Shovel Knight is 400 by 240. We landed on 160 by 90, which is teeny tiny, but also a doable amount of work for somebody who's very busy. The second part of the plan goes hand in hand with screen resolution, and that is deciding what size you want your tiles to be. Most video games use 16 by 16. We went with 8 by 8. Keep in mind the size of your tiles should affect the height of your character. So McFarmer is 15 pixels tall, which gives him one little pixel of room in between a 2-tile high passage. Now the third part of the plan, which is more fun, is making the concept art. I was doing the sprites for the game, my buddy Brian was doing the coding, and my other buddy Mike was doing the music and the sound effects. Also, he's a really good artist, so I asked Mike to do the concept art because I really like the way that he works with colors. We wanted the vibe to be a nighttime, spooky, alien-esque scene. With the plan in place, it's time for stuff number 2, ground and sky. I wanted to make sure that I had the color of the sky in place first because everything in front of that would be impacted by the colors behind it. Now the concept art had a gradient sky, which means it's going from one shade to another over the course of a bunch of pixels. In pixel art, you don't actually have that many pixels to work with, so instead you can fake that through dithering. What I did was I filled in a purple block along the top and then filled in a bunch of that greenish bluish color underneath. And to actually make that gradient, it's literally just a line of checkerboards between each color. You go from like bluish to slightly purplish, you get it. I'll add also, it doesn't always have to be a checkerboard. Like one time I made a picture of the movie Wish, and I used little X's and checkerboards in that, and it made the picture look a little more magical. Now with the sky decided, it's actually ground time, starting with this simple, single, repeatable block. At this point already, the light source was decided as the top left of the image. And you can tell because with the little rocks on there, I've got a little dark line going underneath to kind of signify that shadow, and that'll be used consistently through the rest of the picture. While you're at it, make a tile that's all dirt. Just make sure that your tile is able to be duplicated both horizontally and vertically without the rock getting cut off in part of that duplication. Now you probably want cliffs and edges on your ground, so that's 4 new tiles you'll need to make for the left and right sides. You may also want bottom layers of the ground. This should also be able to connect to that grass layer, so you can have a platform that's only 2 tiles tall. Tiles with both grass and a bottom section. You might want single tile blocks for precision platforming, and a column that's only 1 tile wide. And of course these wouldn't even all have to be ground tiles. I mean, one could be a tree, and one could be a pole, and one could be a dog. I don't know what your game is. Once you have your sky and your ground, it's actually time to move on to stuff number 3, the background. Mike had all these cool little pink clouds up in the sky, but how do we translate that into pixel art? First, I drew standard cloud shapes, and then I just added highlights and shadows. As for the fog layer, the way I designed it was as a 3-tile wide repeatable pattern. And also because I didn't know how tall we would want the fog, I introduced another tile that was literally just like a solid color. The hills were designed with the sound of music. The hills were designed with different colors because one is further away from the camera than the other. Based on this tiny resolution, the grass really wouldn't work, but I did make it look a little grassy by adding in some dots for dithering. As for the barn hill, this was actually the most difficult part of the tile set for me, just because I haven't drawn many buildings before, so this took a lot of practice to get it to really look right. The wood patterns that make it look a little bit old and wooden are just a few pixels tall each, and that really kind of helps sell it. For the last finishing touches, I did those 3 floating islands islands in the background. As for the stars, I actually made an entire screen's width of tiles in the pattern that I kind of wanted them to be. Oh, and also I'll show you the tile set itself. Here it is. Any solid colors like the ones that were inside of the hills, there's just one tile that is that color. The very top left tile is blank. That's something that Game Maker, I believe, requires, and I think that might be like an industry standard, so probably do that. And that's it. Let's take a final look into the world of Old McFarmer. If you liked the video, be sure to like it, that'd be cool, and follow along for more pixel practice. The first thing you need to know about me is I forgot where the sentence is going, so